Good evening and welcome to the Gold Goats and Guns Hour here on YouTube and D Live. My name is Tom Luongo. I hope everybody's having a great evening, and it is Monday, August 12th, 2019. Now I say that, I wish everybody to have a great evening because I know that Jeffrey Epstein isn't. Well, actually, he knows what all dead people know. It's better to be alive. No matter how bad your life is, no matter how bad things are, no matter what, the dead know only one thing. It is better to be alive. All right, so I don't know how stable this stream is going to be tonight. We got a bad storm overhead. Power blinked a couple of times. I lost internet service for 15 minutes or so while the router rebooted. We'll see if we get a brownout. It'll be ugly. So before we get started tonight, we're going to talk about Epstein a little bit. We're not going to talk about the details of this or why we think it's not a suicide or anything along those lines, because I could give a crap about any of that. What we're going to talk about tonight is what I think this means. And we're going to tie it into some other topics as well. I don't want to talk about Epstein for an hour because I don't really think there's an hour's worth of material to talk about that before we get started tonight. As always, you can follow my work over at tomluongo.me. You can follow me over at moneyandmarkets.com as well as Strategic Culture Foundation. Excuse me. You can follow me on Twitter at TFL1728, and you can sign up for the Gold Goats and Guns investment newsletter, which I know is a couple of days late this month. My partner, who does the layout and the editing, has been sick as a dog for the last 3 days, so we're a little behind schedule between that and my vacation. August was always going to be difficult to get on time. But you can sign up for the Gold Goats and Guns investment newsletter to help you make sense of everything that's happening and all of this crazy chaos and everything else, as well as just support what we do here and supporting the idea of getting out information that is not necessarily, well, I guess, suitable for prime time, I guess would be the best way to put it. So if you can do that, you can go over to Patreon and subscribe to the Patreon over Patreon/Gold Goats and Guns. You can either sign up for the newsletter, or you can just sign up for the $4 a month service, which will get you access to our private Slack community, as well as twice weekly video market reports where I go over events of the day and the week, as well as give relevant charts and answer questions from patrons. So that being said, let's get to the Epstein suicide and let's talk about it. So what do I think about what's going on here? Well, it's obvious that he was suicided, right? As Quinn said in the opening, suicide is painless, going back to the great movie and TV show MASH, unless you're Jeffrey Epstein. It's very obvious. Do I block Super Chat, Star Trooper? No, I don't have a monetized channel. If you want to donate, you can donate either through PayPal or you can install Brave and you can do it that way. You can donate crypto. There are links to the description below the video. So, there's that. So I rarely ask for donations, and I probably should more often, but you guys know the drill. There's multiple ways to get a hold of me. There's multiple forms of crypto and or PayPal, or I'm checking the mail. Just let me know you're gonna do it. All right, so let's go forward. But his death was a bad choice for them. From the moment he was arrested, from the moment this process started, Jeffrey Epstein was not long for this world. If anybody who has any sense at all of the way things really operate in this world, the way things actually operate, as opposed to the way we want them to operate, he was a dead man. I mean, say what you want about Hollywood, but they've been prepping us for these kinds of things for years. You can watch how many movies, television shows, how many episodes of Law and Order or CSI or any freaking TV procedural that they've put out over the last 30 years. Think about how many times it's been about some guy who knew too much, got offed by some crooked politician or some crooked blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, any number of different ways of doing that. Any number of variations on that story, right? We've seen this 1,000 times. And I don't believe that they've done it in many ways to desensitize this to us. I mean, that's part of the process. And that may be for some people that they've become so cynical that, what a shock. They, like myself, I'm not shocked that Jeffrey Epstein was suicided. I'm not shocked at all. we've got Clinton body count, trending organically on Twitter. People get it. They get how this works. They understand. People understand incentives. People understand profit motive. I mean, it's just that simple. I mean, look at it in bland economic terms. It's profit motive. This guy was going to cost them too much money, and the calculus is very simple. We either off him and deal with the political fallout of people no longer trusting us or trusting us even less, and whatever that's going to cost us, or we let it happen and we lose everything because he's got a black book on everybody, and it all comes out in the wash, and it all comes out in the future. I mean, Chelsea Manning is never going to testify. Paul Manafort's never going to testify. Okay? They put Martin Armstrong in a hole in order to not have him testify. It's the same thing to Jeffrey Epstein, and he'll continue to do this over and over and over again. Now, the one thing I want to say is I don't think this is the Clintons. The one thing I'm going to talk about tonight, okay, is how I think this is much, much bigger than the Clintons. So we're going to get to that, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But at the end of the day, for the elites, for the people who have been running this blackmail operation for years, running these intelligence compromising, this compromat stuff that's been going on for decades, right? And it's all patterned on the same thing. The CIA is doing the exact same thing that the KGB is doing, that the Mossad's doing, that MI6 is doing. They're all doing it. It's just the way things work. Doesn't matter whether it was Mossad, doesn't matter whether it was the CIA, doesn't matter if it was Professor Plum or Mrs. White or Miss Scarlet or Colonel Mustard. It doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter how they did it, what weapon they used, or why, or how. None of that matters. Who, what, where, and how don't matter. Only why. Why matters, and that's it. Everything else is irrelevant. And we know why they did it. And now the question is, what does that calculus actually tell us? I think, to me, they're desperate as shit, dudes. It's so very obvious that this is yet another moment where they were forced by circumstance, by people getting just fucking tired of their bullshit, of saying, that's enough, no more of this anarcho-tyranny crap of no laws for thee and not for and all laws for me. Screw that crap. We're unsealing those files. Who forced those files open? Who forced those court records open to open up this can of worms that sent the FBI in there to break open his door and arrest him? Who did it? I was asking this moment I would have been asking this question from the moment this happened. And honestly, it does not matter whether it's Five Eyes or Mossad or anything. I'm obliquely watching your comments as they come through here. I know all this, right? I know that this could easily have been MI6. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. There were blackouts in London a couple of days before. Then all of a sudden there was a blackout on Saturday night, roughly about the same time that Epstein got, whacked. This is the way MI6 works. They do this shit all the time. They create a pattern of plausible deniability, and then they go in and they whack somebody. They do it all the time. I mean, think about, I don't know, guys, did you guys watch the recent iteration of Sherlock, the one that everybody went crazy about, with Bandicoot, Curmudgeon, and Martin, what the hell is his name? Martin Freeman, the Stephen Moffat one, which was really good, at least the first couple of seasons were. Was anybody as horrified as me at Mark Gaddis's Mycroft and the whole old man's club that actually ran everything? They the whole thing was this big outing of how fucking vile and evil MI6 is, or MI5 or whatever, which one. Yeah. Now, Bandicoot Curmudgeon is my name for him. There's the whole Benedict Cumberbatch false name version. I like Bandicoot Curmudgeon because he is a fucking curmudgeon. Good actor. Shitlib, but good actor. So, even Moffat was telling us this stuff in recent times. And we know what's going on. And as much as we see in popular media. We see apologia for what the state does, for what these people do. There's also the other side of it. There's also, I hate to tell you, to me, it's all the Invisibles. It's all Grant Morrison's The Invisibles. It's all, if you ever read that comic from the 90s, it's all, the royal family is a bunch of baby eating, depraved lunatics trying to take over the freaking world, and it's fucking crazy as shit. It's half Jerry Cornelius and half the Prisoner. It's really brilliant, but it's also really crazy. All right, so maybe one of the best comic books of all time. I've got the omnibus in hardcover on my shelf. It's pretty brilliant. So this stuff, like, to me is, accusing the royal family of being a bunch of freaking depraved lunatics that prey on children. Not really outside my frame of reference. I don't know about you guys. So I'm not accusing them of it. I'm just saying, hey, I'm not putting it past anybody at this point, because once you get to a certain level of power, everything is you're desensitized to everything. And you just are. And thankfully, the One Rings never come anywhere near me. Ugh. All right, so domestic versus foreign. What's the difference between MI5 and MI6? One operates domestically, one operates operates in foreign territory. Like our CIA is not supposed to. All right, so what's ultimately important here is that they had a terrible choice to make. They made it. It was obvious they were going to make it. They tried once and failed, and then he wasn't moved. Then he was taken off suicide watch after he quote unquote tried to commit suicide. Give me a break. Like, how many legs do I? I only have 2 legs. You can't pull both of them and hope they play Jingle Bells. Fuck you. Okay, it's retarded for them to even think that we would fall for any of this stuff at any level. Obviously, we're not falling for it. We're not falling for any of this shit anymore. I mean, it's crazy. But it doesn't matter. Now now he's dead. Now everything can be buried. And that's what they're going to try and do. Even though everybody knows that he was killed, to keep this information from coming out. Yeah, was it the smart move? I mean, User 13 is saying it was the smart choice. It's the only choice. Because it's not that they have upside here, it's that they limit their downside. Because the other one is like shorting Apple in a bull market. You ain't got nothing but downside risk, dude. Like shorting Apple in 2004. Not a good look. Exactly. So, or as I said earlier, the dead know only one thing: it's better to be alive. To quote Full Metal Jacket again, it's a giant shit sandwich, and we all have to take a bite. So, it's also a brazen choice. I'll agree with Tenjin on that one. It's a litmus test to see how much the public is willing to swallow. I'm not willing to swallow any of it. I'm almost desensitized to how depraved these people are. Okay, I'm like, yeah, whatever. Yep, pulse is still 76. Wow. I got a text from a friend of mine on Saturday morning. He's like, Drudge Report now, stat. I'm like, read the fucking Drudge Report. Oh, look. Saw it, big, bold, red letters. Went, got breakfast to make. Like, it's how I reacted to it. I'm like, oh, wow. Breakfast. Okay. Bacon, eggs. Okay, great. All right, so yeah, what does this mean? It means the following. Well, of course they were. Now, User 13 reminds us that now we're all domestic terrorist conspiracy theorists now. And note that they were pushing that bill through while he was sitting in prison. Like, come on, guys. Like, we can put 2 and 2 together, get 4, and go fuck yourself, okay? So. I heard people joking on 770 KKOB today. How about the most surprised person by Epstein's suicide was Jeffrey Epstein? Exactly. No one's buying it. For the first time at all, I mean, when Clinton body count was just out there, as it was out there organically. And here's the thing. And this is a couple of things here. You knew that they were prepping the narrative for a number of things, for two things. Well, one, they were going to kill him. So continually play up the pedophile thing, the pedophile thing, the pedophile thing, the pedophile thing. He wasn't a pedophile. He might have been at some point. He might have banged some 13-year-old girls, but for the most part, those were 16-year-olds. Those were 17-year-olds. That's not pedophilia. It's a statutory crime. It's a sex crime. It's many things. But at those parties, those were 16-year-olds. Do I discount that he's on a yacht somewhere bothering Ghislaine Maxwell while we sit here watching your stream? No. I don't think he was supposed to be arrested. I still go with my theory that Trump and Barr started this, and this was the next thing coming. I firmly believe that. So. But it would be funny if he was, been disappeared and he's in WITSEC. Since I just finished rewatching, and believe me, don't think that didn't cross my mind. I just got finished watching 5 years of In Plain Sight, which is all about WITSEC, right? It's a procedural with WITSEC. Good show. Good show. A little feminist, but good show. So, how do you? But what is laying aside the idea that the Mossad, faked his death and and put him in Israeli WITSEC. Forget that. Why do I think this is not about the Clintons? Why do I think this might actually wind up being something that will actually hurt the Clintons? It's a good question. Because here's what I think. I think the Clintons have outlived their usefulness. I think they started outliving their usefulness the minute she lost in 2016. And then refused to go away. And then opened up Russiagate. And then all this other stuff. Okay? I firmly believe that in the grand scheme of things, the Clintons are done, right? The Clinton Foundation is gone. They no longer can launder billions of dollars. They have no foundation. They got nothing. What do they got? They got nothing. They're a pair of Arkansas grifters. That's who they are ultimately. They've been trying to turn this thing into Epstein, pedophilia, Trump, Epstein, pedophilia, Trump, Epstein, pedophilia, Trump, the whole time, so that they can then try and hang this crazy fucking story that Donald Trump had Epstein killed to stop his, to stop what he knows about Trump coming out so that Trump doesn't get impeached. That's the line they're playing. They're trying to rebuild this as a fucking Nixonian Watergate thing. Okay? It's not going to stick. It's stupid. It's idiotic. It's many, many, many things. It's dumb. Only anybody who still watches Rachel Maddow, or 45 of them, would believe that. The Clintons, I think, they're done. They tried a speaking tour to raise money to see if there was anything left for her. Nothing doing. Every time she opens her mouth, she gets laughed at. Nothing doing. So you got to think of it this way. If you're the bad guys, right? You're going to try and hang, and Trump is in a dangerous position here. He has to open up an investigation on this. He has to push this. If he opened up this can of worms by arresting Epstein in the first place, and then they kill him, he has to then push back, because otherwise it will look like he's complicit. They'll be able to hang him with that narrative. If Barr goes in there and doesn't find anything, if he doesn't out his moles and all this crap, if they keep letting Strzok and Page and Comey and Brennan and the rest of them all walk around free, Jeffrey Epstein's dead, but these guys are still all walking around. If this continues, it's going to reflect badly on Trump. He has to get something done here. I don't know if he can or he can't. I'm not like ascribing supernatural powers to William Barr, of all fucking people. I'm just saying, from a tactical and strategic perspective, Trump has to pursue this, and his Department of Justice has to pursue this in order to keep that narrative off the table. Now, if there's a counterattack here by Trump, and I'm again assuming this is my narrative. I don't know if this narrative is right, but this is the one I'm going with. This is the one that's so far fits most of the facts as I see them and as my spidey sense tells me. I trust my right brain. I trust my spidey sense. If this is the case, then if what I said earlier about the anarcho-tyranny thing and about the bad choice that they had to make, then the best way for them to get around that is to offer somebody up. So far, no one's gone to jail for attempting a coup against the sitting president of the United States. Nobody. Nobody's even in jail. No one's even been indicted. No one's even being investigated. How insane is this? There's going to come a point where if you want to maintain confidence in the system that anything about our system currently still functions in any way, manner, shape, or form, you're going to have to bring somebody in. You're going to have to go after somebody. Who better than the Clintons at this point? If I'm Soros and the people behind him and the royal family and the rest of them, I'm looking at the fucking the Clintons and I'm going, they're first generation Arkansas grifters who think they're fucking royalty. No. You're not royalty. We're royalty. You're going down. That, to me, makes the most sense in the long run. I've been saying for 2 years that eventually Hillary will indict herself. Eventually, she will ultimately outlive all of her usefulness. If Jeffrey Epstein, with the biggest blackmail book in the world, presumably, can get off in prison, whatever Hillary Clinton has on people is nothing in comparison. So Mark Scheer says, to poke holes in my theory, if that's a BOP, I'm missing that part, is part of the BOJ. If Barr wanted to keep Epstein alive for trial, this wouldn't have happened. Possible. Understand that. I don't know. Then again, Barr might have been very happy to allow Epstein to be killed because that takes the game to another level. Because they might have everything they would have ever gotten out of Epstein. They might have gotten all of his records and all of his files and all his tapes and information from him. And if he gave out all of that, then why not let him be killed? I mean, think second order here. Why not let him be killed? Once his information has been garnered, he's outlived his usefulness to Trump just as much as he outlived his usefulness to the bad guys, the Davos crowd. Pick a name. Doesn't fucking matter. The bad guys. We'll call them the baddies. Okay? At that point, letting them come in way too late and killing them off. The other thing is that do you think Barr's got complete control over the DOJ? Yes, there's very weak connections. I think there's very weak connections between Epstein and William Barr's father. I think that was the means by which Epstein was originally recruited, but I don't know that it was anything more than just a chance meeting. BOP stands for Bureau of Prisons. I do know that Trump is a huge royalist. I do know that. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if I'm right or not, guys. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter that that one way or the other. But what matters is, I mean, again, pet theory here. That pet theory could be wrong. I'm just throwing it out there. The important part is what this actually means for the rest of it, which is what all the marbles just said. We live in a lawless country. We live in a lawless world. There's a different set of standards for everybody else. And I don't want to get in, again, I'm not discounting anything that any of y'all are saying. And it's part of the reason why I haven't written about any of this, because to me it just seems silly to get bogged down in the details of who did this, because who did it isn't important. I mean, I'm so angry with Donald Trump right now. Wouldn't surprise me at all if this is going to be a sham investigation and it's all just about creating the illusion of him being on top of things. I don't care one way or the other. I don't think it's going to, and the thing about it is all I think that's going to happen here is it's going to accelerate people being willing to take another giant dump on the entire American political system. In 2016, we as voters took a giant dump on the election. We said, fuck it, let's just shit all over it and we'll vote for Trump. Fuck Hillary. What won him the election? He didn't win because he was Donald Trump. He won because he wasn't Hillary. Even he knows that. My worry is that we're going to do it again in 2020 after everybody gets disillusioned with Trump. And then we wind up with President Harris. Or worse, Pocahontas and the gay mayor, right? So, I mean, I'm at the point now where we were talking about this morning. I'm like, the obvious ticket they want Joe Biden because he's easily controllable, he's old, and he'll just sit there and dodder and drool on himself and say stupid shit and fondle little girls while he's in the White House while they run the show. That's what they want. They're not going to get that. What they're going to get is they're going to get a Pocahontas and the gay mayor, which sounds like a children's book, right? Or the next Harry Potter series, right? Pocahontas and the gay mayor from New Hampshire or Indiana or whatever. And they want Buttigieg because he's going to bring them Indiana, which is 13 electoral votes or 9 or whatever the hell it is that they don't have. 9 electoral votes, whatever it is that they don't have. That's why they want him. All right? So, that's where we are. And in some respects, I agree with WDM, who just said the burden is now on Trump and Barr and the rest of them to prove that they weren't involved in this. I don't think that's completely true. I think I'm almost positive that they weren't involved with this. So, Stoyanovich, I'm not saying that they're going to take Indiana with Buttigieg on the table. I'm telling you this is what they're thinking in Brooklyn. Okay? That's what I'm thinking. He makes sense because he can deliver. He might be able to deliver Indiana, and they may need those votes. That's what they're thinking. They're in just pure numbers mode. That's all that's all they're thinking. We'll spend this money, we'll win this, and we'll win this state, and we'll pound Trump on this, and this, and he's, he's the gay mayor from Gary, Indiana. Anybody, I honestly believe that anybody who I know they're morons. They're Democrats. They ran Hillary Clinton in 2016. They let her run the worst campaign of all time, run by a bunch of worldly 20-somethings from Brooklyn. Are you fucking kidding me? It was the most amateur hour thing I've ever seen in electoral politics. And I worked for libertarians. I mean, I mean, whether you trust Trump or not, I don't trust Trump, but I don't think this stuff just doesn't sound like him. It just doesn't scan with everything I've seen about Donald Trump and everything else. I just don't see it. And what other people have said about him that I trust, I just don't see it. Not this angle. I don't see Trump likes the royals, so he's going to protect Prince Charles. Okay, yeah, whatever. Fuck you. Yeah, and we didn't go to the fucking moon either, right? Come on. I mean, when you run in those circles, you can play guilt by association because a picture was taken with a dude, with somebody, all day long. It's dumb. I think it's a dead end. I mean, truth be told, man, he's been fighting these people for 3 years. He's still in power. They created an even more elaborate honeypot conspiracy around him that made Watergate look like a fucking Amish barn raisin, and he's still in power. These people have gone completely fucking crazy with him in power. He's still useful from that perspective. He's a fucking idiot when it comes to money. But, it's incredible. So, I don't know. For me, this thing is about bigger stuff than that. It's about much, much bigger stuff. And it's going to accelerate everything that we've been talking about that's been going on for years now. We've been doing this for 3 years, and everything I've been talking about for the last 3 years is only accelerating. I mean, think about what's happened in the last week. I wrote an article yesterday, which was published this last night. And think about what happened last week, and I even forgot about one of the things that happened last week. Right? I mean, we had Kashmir and Jammu. We have the Hong Kong protests. We have Trump labeling China currency manipulator. We have the full economic blockade of Venezuela, Epstein, Salvini, all of this shit in one fucking week. In 1 week. It's like shit's accelerating quickly. And you can see it, and you're starting to see it in the markets. You're starting to see the markets make really they're making really radical choices right now. And I think, as I wrote over the weekend, I think Salvini is pushing on the EU when they're weak and they're distracted and they're disorganized. I think he's doing it at exactly the right time. You've got fucking China is easily going to blow up. We're trying to foment a fucking coup not a coup, but a revolt in Hong Kong, India, Pakistan. This shit's off the fucking charts crazy. And the markets are starting to make very, very interesting choices. Look at what's happening in the sovereign bond markets. Look at what's happening in the short-term funding markets. Look at what's happening in real estate around the world. Is starting to finally go busto. We're starting to see high-end real estate in the United States. Australia is fucked. Europe is slowing down. Germany's economy is falling off a cliff. I mean, when I finally saw something in the Financial Times, like, oh my God, there may be something problem with Germany. I'm like, yeah, like 4 straight months of the manufacturing PMI polling at 44 isn't a fucking problem. Like, no, it's not a problem they can't export to China anymore. And they're not, I was reading something about German exports to China. They're dependent upon the United States and China now because they can't export within the EU anymore because the EU's tapped out. And their trade with Russia is starting to expand, but it's at half the level it was in 2014. So for it to expand by 15% from half, it's still down 40% from where it was in 2014 before Merkel put the sanctions on. Problems in Germany, like all of Deutsche Bank and Commerzbank and the rest of it. Are you kidding? It's all bad. And Salvini's like, here. Oh, by the way, are those your ribs? Well, I'm going to slip this knife right between them because, there's your spleen's back there somewhere, and I'm sure I can get it, you fuckers. Salvini is by far the best politician I have seen yet of a populist bent to make it through. Viktor Orban in Hungary is great, but Hungary doesn't fucking matter. Salvini has completely reshaped Italian politics in 18 months. Guys, 18 months, and he's taken on the Italian deep state that's at least 500 to 600 years old. He's taking on the EU, and he's winning. He's destroyed a dozen important Italian politicians in 18 months. I was thinking about this the other day. I'm like, holy Christ, how good is he? Alec Baldwin claims Russia kills Epstein. Alec Baldwin should stop drinking. Okay, that's what Alec Baldwin needs to do. He needs to stop drinking, go to a fucking rehab, and shut the fuck up. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Denmark, they're launching mortgages at minus 0.5%. They're going to pay people to buy a house. The reason why Salvini is awesome and he's not Trump is because Salvini's not a fucking baby boomer. Donald Trump is the quintessential baby boomer. Quintessential. He still believes in an America that never quite existed. He grew up in an age of easy freaking money and, champagne dreams and I don't know, whatever the fucking Robin Leach thing is. I can't even remember it. All I can remember is Robin Leach on Space Ghost. That's all I can remember of that fucking guy and the ridiculous freaking accent. Yeah, Putin personally slipped into prison and throttled Epstein. That's what these people think. But Salvini's just not a fucking entitled baby boomer who've now, created latchkey kids like me. Well, my parents didn't because they were silent. They were silent generation. They actually work for a living. Caviar smiles and champagne dreams. That's right. Which is retarded. It's just dumbest shit imaginable. And that whole generation, they grew up with a silver spoon in their mouth and thinking that they were going to, change the freaking world. And all they've done is made it a mess of it. And the bills are all due and we don't know what to do about it now. And Trump honestly thinks, I said this the other day, I'm like, Trump is angry with the Federal Reserve for not cutting interest rates enough the other day, right? So he then ups the trade war with China to punish the Fed for not doing, and then gets mad at China for watching the market react to his idiocy. So he does stupid shit, the market reacts normally, and then he blames China for it. Because, like every good narcissistic baby boomer jack-off that exists in power in the United States, and that includes Schumer and Larry Summers and Pelosi and all these fucking retards like Clinton and the rest of them, cannot take responsibility for any fucking thing that they do. Yes, Salvini is Gen X. Exactly. And so here we are. And I'm like, I wrote in my article about Trump the other day. I said, look, I said, you're staring at $50 trillion of dollar-denominated debt. That's all that, and less than half of it can be fucking serviced. You're running a $1.2 trillion a year deficit, and the largest defense budget the world has ever seen by $200 billion. I mean, if we could just go back to 2015 level, we could just go back to the Obama era, we would save $250 billion a year. And you think, and what in the actual fuck do you think another quarter point's going to do? I mean, if you honestly believe any of that shit you learned at Wharton, then you're an idiot. Just like the rest of them. It's absolutely insane. This is what passes for statesmanship. This is what passes for leadership. And now this is what passes for institutional viability. Well, you know, if you got the goods on if you got the goods on people who are in power, we just have you killed in broad daylight. And they dare us to look behind the curtain. Like, dude, we pulled back the curtain and pulled your fucking pants down and had an 18-year-old suck you off. And what are you, and we're watching it on fucking Pornhub, for Christ's sake. What the fuck do you think is going on here? So, you know, whatever. The ultimately, at the end of the day, Salvini does crack me up. He told Richard Gere to take all the migrants into his place. I know, it was fucking great. I mean, think about it. And think about the level of entitlement that it takes and the solipsism it takes to live in this world and think that this is this is now leadership. That you tweet out, I mean, literally tweets out the most ham-fisted gobbledygook of all fucking time. And dude, the world is burning down around you. Your world's burning down around you. They're killing people off. You know, the global economy is on the verge of a complete meltdown because every day you make business less and less predictable. Markets hate chaos. Investors hate chaos. Entrepreneurs hate chaos. They don't just like low interest rates and think, oh, well, just lower interest rates to zero and we'll get all the growth we ever needed. I know how to fix everything. Yeah, really? Really, dude? You know how to fix everything? Okay. Fix a flat fucking tire. No, I got people for that. Yeah, you call people on the phone for that shit. No, you don't actually know you've forgotten how to actually do anything. And this is one of the things I liked about Trump from his days when he was in New York, is that he did work with the people who actually built his buildings. He actually went down and you know, he knew everybody in his hotels. He knew everybody who worked there. He knew them by name. He cared about this stuff. And he's not doing that anymore. He's now just sitting in the fucking White House, tweeting his ass off, watching Fox News and thinking about gun control. Like, what the fuck are we dealing with now? And this is where we are. I mean, look, beating a fucking 82-year-old Nancy Pelosi in border wall funding is not a freaking victory, okay? It's not. It's just not. Seriously. Oh my God, Dragon M with the. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to read this one out because we're already well off the not safe for work, the NSFW curve tonight. When I talked about, you know, the Wizard of Oz getting sucked off by an 18-year-old. Do you know why gerbils can't drive stick shift? Because they could never get it out of gear. Gere, as in Richard Gere. I can't stand that twat. I can't stand most of them. I mean, you know, it's funny. And it's sad all at the same time. Rick Farmer, of course, Trump is out of his element. He's the dog that caught the car. You guys are just full of it. This is great stuff tonight. I can just read this crap, and I'll get up another 20 minutes. Right. Stephen Burnett says, I was never in the construction business across the U.S., but I never worked with Trump, but those who did have a good opinion of him. I know that. I know, you know, he drives a hard bargain. He's a pain in the ass, yada, yada, yada. But the people who worked for him, oh, yeah, absolutely. People who worked with him, you know, he kept his deal, kept his promises. You know, I mean, for the most part. You know, yeah, he wouldn't pay contractors that sucked. What a shock. The chaos in Fun Fang's opinion is totally intended to make you think you have to break a thing if you. No, I don't know. He's not the Joker. No, Trump is not the Joker from The Dark Knight. Not by any stretch of the imagination. Nope. That's George Soros. Some men want to see the world burn for their profit. Soros is an ideologue that thinks he's going to create utopia, but I got news for you. Once it turns on him, that's when he turns into the Joker, and that's where he is now. Soros, Steyer, those people, they're all jokers. If Trump was the fucking Joker, I would be happier. At least it would make sense the Joker makes perfect sense to me. Oh, the fucking world sucks, just burn it all down. I wish. But that's not what Trump is doing. Trump honestly thinks that he's making America great again by shitting all over everybody else. The only reason Soros is still alive is because nobody has pounded a wooden stake through his heart. Yeah, well, he is Hungarian after all. Why is Argentina melting down? I did not notice that this morning, but probably for every other reason that Argentina is always blown up. They issue too much debt, they peg their currency, and then it collapses. They've only done it 2 or 3 times in the last 20 years. What kind of madness do you think Bolton is cooking up during his visit to London? Off the top of my head, how we can get Trump to bomb Iran. Oh, I'll say what needs to happen, all the marbles. We do need to burn the whole fucking thing down. This is the point, is that what Jeffrey Epstein means is that it's going to make even more people just want to burn the whole thing down. Just take another giant shit all over everything and go, well, look, Trump wasn't the answer. Let's go with Warren. How bad could she be? And then we go for, full-blown freaking commie socialism crap, and we go for that one again. Soros and the Koch brothers are starting an anti-war think tank together. Yeah, it's called Neocons or Us. The Koch brothers destroyed Cato. That was the staunch libertarian anti-war institute in the world, created by Murray Rothbard. The Koch brothers took it over from within, destroyed it, and installed neocons all through the whole fucking thing. No, the whole thing is burning down. And I don't think that Trump is trying to burn the world down. I think he's trying to get a better deal for America. That's the way he sees things. He's not that complicated a person. What he is going to do is, what he has done is unleashed chaos everywhere. And it's chaos that it's not going to be in the short term, and probably while he's on the watch, it's going to work to his advantage, because we're the core economy. All the capital's rolling up here. He thinks the capital's all rolling here, rolling into the United States because, we have such a great investment environment. We've got such great people and such great workers and such great laws and everything else. And then this will be great, and it's going to usher in a golden age for about 18 months. And then the dollar's going to spike because he has no control over that. The Fed has no control over that. And then everything will collapse. Zero Hedge had the budget numbers this afternoon. We were already at a budget deficit for this year that eclipses last year, which was the biggest budget deficit of all time. Receipts are down by 25% or so. The deficit is ballooning, and debt servicing is now over 20% of the budget. Woo! And people wonder why gold's over $1,500 an ounce. The only question just to be in your mind is why gold isn't $15,000 an ounce. How much time does John Bolton have left? Got news for you, John. He's not going anywhere. If John Bolton hasn't been fired by now, not going anywhere. Him and Pompeo, not going anywhere. They're setting policy still. Reason Magazine is now running pro-war propaganda against Tulsi Gabbard, as if no one will notice. Perfect. The libertarians are, all the libertarian institutions except for the Mises Institute, except for LouRockwell.com, have been completely, and anti-war, have been completely and utterly compromised. And I realized this back in 2004. That's why I started giving them money and told the LP to go fuck themselves. The LP called me for 10 years going, could you please come back? Would you? No. I'm like, no, fuck you people. Would you please get rid of the Koch brothers? Would you please stop running Bill Weld? Would you please stop being neocons? No. I'm choosing my libertarian option to opt out. There you go. Reason walks a fine line between socialism and libertarianism. Reason walks a fine line between pot and everything else. They have for years. Nick Gillespie and the rest of the staff over there, Matt Welch and Nick Gillespie and all those guys, they're all fucking losertarians. Every goddamn one of them. All they want to do is not pay taxes and smoke pot. They don't actually give a fuck about libertarianism. They never have. They just they want to be considered. They're like they're part of the Virginia Pastoral wing of the libertarian movement. And she's fucking useless too. It's all about dynamism. No, it really isn't. It's about property rights. It's about individuals. It's about the non-aggression principle. It's about fucking off and leaving us the fuck alone. It's about stop destroying the fucking word for your Orwellian masters. Fucking bitch. Holy shit. I don't know if I can vote for Trump with Bolton there. I'm already not voting for Trump. Would you have to understand when I was saying earlier about them using this to create even more apathy for Trump in 2020, if he doesn't do anything about this Epstein thing, if he continues to be boxed in and do stupid shit on foreign policy and create a fucking trade war with China and do all of this crap and not actually resolve any of the things that he said he would resolve. He took on all these big projects: China trade war, North Korea, Iran, peace in the Middle East, reforming NATO, this, that, all of these things. None of those things have come to pass. Nothing. We got nothing. We got a big nothing. We got a big bunch of fucking shuck and jive and Donald Trump Donald Trump getting knob jobbed by a bunch of fucking magatards. That's what we've got. We got a cult of personality around an orange Jesus who hasn't delivered neither the loaves nor the fishes. What would I do with China? Continue trading with China. Our problems with China are domestic. They're not China. China's not stealing from us. We're fucking retards. I don't know how many times I have to fucking say this. American labor's too goddamn expensive. Being in America, doing business in America is too expensive. It's not just the corporate tax rate. It isn't. And honestly, most of the stuff goes overseas and the money comes back in over here. Most of the trade deficit is an accounting anomaly and an accounting anachronism. Most of it is. It's all bullshit. All bullshit. Trump has been fucking bamboozling people with this crap about them stealing our jobs and stealing from us and everything else because he still thinks it's the 17th century and we're on the fucking gold standard. For fuck's sake. It's retarded. We can print money at will, guys. Okay? It's not the same thing. But it's the way he argues it. It's the way he sets his policy. He sets his policy as if it's the 17th fucking century and trade theory hasn't advanced past Adam Smith, for fuck's sake. The Chinaman peed on Trump's rug. That's actually probably closer to the truth than anything else. And yes, the farmers are getting killed. They're getting the double whammy of unbelievably bad weather due to global cooling and the pole reversal, which is well underway, and Trump's idiocy. Oh, it's beautiful. Just for Bolton and Pompeo alone is reason enough to make Trump a one-term president. Tulsi 2020. If not Tulsi, I'm going to write myself in. Not kidding. Mark Scheer. I don't vote. If I'm not going to vote for president, I just don't vote. But I can't tell you how many times I've voted for my wife for president. My wife would make a far better president than any of these fucking assholes. But Tulsi Gabbard's not going to be president. Hate to break it to anybody. I wish she was. I wish she'd run. I wish she would go independent now that the Democrats are fucking her over. But she's not going to. She's setting herself up for 2024. She's not dumb. She's got a lot to learn about being on the national stage. She's worked really, really hard. And she's getting a lot of great exposure and she's getting a lot of great experience. The world's not ready for her yet. I wish the hell we were, but we're not. I don't care that she's a crazy shit lib in so many other areas. Get rid of the freaking, cut the fucking budget, stop the foreign policy nonsense, tear down, Mr. President, tear down this empire. All over it. All right. Yeah, Tulsi is like Rand Paul. He's too normal to be president. Yeah. All right. We hit a high of around 110, I think, tonight. Holy shit. Nice. 104 people, and we sustained that for nearly half an hour. So that's fantastic. All right, I'm going to be getting out of here soon. The last couple minutes here, I know a couple of you, the last thing I wanted to talk about tonight, really briefly, is that one of the things, and this is something that's been bothering me for a long time, and it's a couple of minutes, and most of you who are foreign policy junkies, you can probably tune out now, because I'm going to talk about like irrelevant shit. But not really. It's about culture. The entitlement thing is so deeply ingrained in our society, and it's so deeply ingrained in the way we look at things. We look at things wrong, right? And there's this whole, I'm trying to do a decent segue here to what I want to talk about, which is completely orthogonal. But it was funny. Over the weekend, I don't know, I know a couple of you get to the goat news number. There's nothing about the goats anymore. I don't milk them. I barely even talk to the girls anymore. I see them once a day for about 2 to 3 minutes. They're out and they graze. They do their thing. And it's nice to have them. And if I need them again to be productive for me, then I will. But for the most part, it's that. So, but going beyond the baby boomer entitlement thing, then we get into the millennials and we get into other things. There's this terrible thing that I see in people all the time, and it's that sense of envy, and it's that sense of caring so much more about what the other guy is doing. We have an entire society now that's absolutely focused, almost laser focused, on all this bullshit about what other people are doing. No, it's because we don't have any. Because as things get worse, people are always looking over the horizon going, why is that guy's life so much better than mine? Why, and they're jealous of what they have. And it's interesting. And this is the hard segue. So for everybody who doesn't give a shit, it's time to leave. Over the weekend, the World of Warcraft Classic servers went live. At least for a couple days as a stress test, which was interesting. And and for me, as a person who played WoW from the beginning until about 2010, pretty hardcore, it dredged up a lot of memories about what went on inside that community, and how but that community is very interesting, because we were watching the process of people self-organizing into guilds and to get these massive tasks done and everything else. And Warcraft is nothing more than, and WoW is nothing more than a big gear grind. I mean, all you're doing is grinding for greater ephemeral achievements that don't have any impact in the real world. But there are some good life lessons. You can make some friends. It's a good thing to do, wasting your time. If you're not wasting your time, because you are trying to achieve certain things. There's a lot of lessons about, coordinating, getting people to coordinate and agree with each other and try and take down a task that's far, far better than them. Far, far bigger than just you, right? Whether you're doing a 5-man dungeon or a 40-man raid, doesn't matter. And one of the things that was always interesting was in watching how WoW evolved to its current state, which created an overwhelming desire for people to go back to the original version, because with every expansion there would be a new version of the game, and with every expansion there would be inevitable drop off of people, where the next version of the game would reset the power level, and then you'd play through that expansion and resetting the power level every time. And so all the work you did for the first expansion, for the first thing, became nothing. And I was talking to a friend of mine over the weekend who was a hardcore raider, and he actually left after the first expansion because he went all the way through vanilla WoW, got all of his gibs, worked his ass off for all of this stuff, and then the minute Burning Crusade came out, it's like it all got replaced with gear you got dropped immediately at the next level, and all that work effectively got trivialized. And then, of course, then he was mad that everybody else has got to have the same power level stuff he had, and there was no way for him to, show off. I guess that he was a hot, he was at the upper echelon of players, and he was no more powerful at this point than a scrub. Well, that's the thing. I ask a very simple question here before I leave. Why do you do things in this life? And I know this is weird, and this is a weird thing, but I'm not going to be on Fault Lines tomorrow. I did not get an invite from Eric Gladney. It happens when it happens. It happens more often than not on Fridays, but last Tuesday was a weird one. But I asked this question because, especially within the gaming community, which has been under a lot of pressure, right, from through Gamergate and all this other stuff, and trying to marginalize guys and all this crap. But what's interesting is watching people get angry at how other people play this game or other people do things. And it's a bigger lesson than that. It's that they get annoyed with the idea that, well, you're getting an unfair advantage over me because I did all this, and then you trivialize it, or you're playing the game differently than me. And the game itself and the community that it spawned was always a toxic one in which people went crazy over the littlest details. Like, got two things I want to add to that. One, why do you give so much of a fuck about this goddamn game? And not actually apply that to real life, where if you had took all of that work that you put into clearing fucking Naxxramas, if you put that into understanding how the fucking world actually worked and changed our political system, changed our freaking government, we actually would live in a less shitty world. But, oh my God, we can't do that. We have to only care about, we only have to care about our nerd rage. And that's endemic throughout all of social media and all of it, that there's this unbelievable sense of entitlement, or that you once you worked for something, then just take it away from you. And Silicon Valley is very good at this. So one of the things that is going to be interesting to watch over the course of the next couple of years as WoW Classic takes off, and whether or not they're going to re-implement the same mistakes they made the first time. Because the friend I was talking to over the weekend, he wasn't wrong. They did trivialize a lot of their accomplishments, but at the same time, do you really expect everybody to have to climb the same ladder you did in order to get to a state and to be able to play, to be able to engage in this hobby? And at a certain level also, how are you going to stay up there? Don't you think attrition is going to take over eventually? I mean, there's all these like little things about organization and time and everything else, and it's just so obvious that everybody's so caught up in their version of reality, and how their version of reality should be implemented and imposed upon everybody else. That's a cultural ethos that exists all through the American psyche at this point, and it's actually really quite dangerous. So I am going to leave it there to remind everybody. I know a couple of you pinged me afterwards to say that when I announced that I'll be playing WoW Classic, I will be. I made characters on both of the normal PvE servers, both Pagel and Mankrik. So if any of you are World of Warcraft players and you are interested, I am setting up a guild to hang out. I don't have great plans. I just mostly want to do 5-mans and maybe Zul'Guru. We'll get there. So I don't think, Liz, I don't think games are bad. As a matter of fact, I live a life outside of this where I play games regularly. I think games are a tremendous life lesson. I think they teach you all sorts of great things. They teach you strategy and tactics. They teach you to think 2 and 3 moves ahead. They make you do a variety of things, and not just the whole boomer, oh my God, this fucking violent video games that leads to school shootings bullshit, narcissistic bullshit, because they just aren't willing to actually engage at any fundamental fucking level. They just want to ab-react to shit and be right about everything and be didactic and moralizing. It's fucking horseshit. It pisses me off to no end. It's important, the games are important. right? Not just, doesn't matter if we're talking video games, board games, whatever. I prefer board games to video games. As the older I get, the more I'd rather play board games with real people, chatting and amongst themselves, competing against real people, sometimes in, you know, a highly competitive game, sometimes in some dry German economic Euro that, you know, I'm playing my game, you're playing yours, and I scored more points than you did. Okay, great. And then there's, you know, then there's the granddaddies of them all. And oh, by the way, 2 weeks from today, Dune, or 2 weeks from Friday, Dune comes back into print for the first time in God knows 35 fucking years. Greatest game of all time. There's so many things about board games and games in general. You have to learn to be able to you have to learn how to lose. That's really hard for people. You have to learn how to lose. You have to learn how to fail. I mean, there's nothing about, you know, there's nothing about games in general that, as long as you understand what they're for and what they're doing. Now, I tell my daughter this all the time whenever we're playing board games together. I'm like, she gets, I say, I don't think Minecraft is more rewarding than WoW. Interestingly enough, I think Minecraft is a monumental waste of time. I've played games like that in the past. I just think they're a monumental waste of time. I've never understood why Minecraft. I've never understood Minecraft, and I've played hours and hours of Minecraft. And to me, I've never ever found Minecraft engaging for more than about 4 or 5 hours. And then I'm like, the idea of making a house in Minecraft, I'm like, I just need a hole. Let's go out and venture. Let's go out and do things. Let's go out and get better. And, you know, I mean, there comes a point where Minecraft just, I do understand it. I've played multiple games like that in the past. I've played a couple of different builder style games, but I fundamentally believe, by the way, Dave Groth, no Yahtzees. Even I can't, but the only thing I can, like, the only version of Yahtzee, I have a game called Alien Frontiers, which we call Evil Space Yahtzee, which is Yahtzee with control, with area mixed with area control. That's a good game. Alien Frontiers is that's a winner, that game. But Minecraft for me is not, I mean, I'm not like spatially, it doesn't work for me. I understand why people like Minecraft, but I can't play it. Actually, for a roll and write game like Yahtzee, I absolutely recommend That's Very Clever, or the German version of GGnG Clever. Is an incredible Yahtzee style roll and write game, because Yahtzee is like the original roll and write. It's a really good game. The app is fantastic. It's like $3 on iOS. So Star Citizen is shaping up to be a newer version of Eve. I played Eve during the first couple of years it was around, before World of Warcraft started. Eve was fun. Eve was interesting. I stopped playing it after a while. But no, absolutely, GGnG Clever is really, really good. And so is the follow-up game, Twice as Clever. They're both very, very cool. Take about 10 minutes to play. Great roll and write. Now, Minecraft is a glorified sandbox, and that's what makes it interesting. I want more game. Thank you, Rescue Steve. GGnG Clever he's got a he's got the thing, the spelling right there. I just want more game than what Minecraft gives me. I want more focus. I want more task, right? And one of the things that World of Warcraft originally did very, very well was the balance, the time spent versus the amount of reward you got for that time. And you worked hard to get what you wanted, to get where you needed to go. And that's not that the game was hard, that you had to work hard, even though the game wasn't terribly, even though the solo PvE game wasn't terribly challenging, because you just went out and found somebody to duo with, and then you just, you know, what the fuck pooned everything. Or you did what I did multiple times, which you just leveled green, right? You just only did quests when they were green, because you got full credit for them and they were easy. And so, but you know, they're really important, and there was something really magical about WoW, and I defended WoW for a long time against people who didn't like games, because I do think that WoW has had something very, very special in terms of how it created communities as quickly as the way it created communities. Did I play Witcher 3? I didn't play any of the Witchers. I don't like first person games at all. Generally, that's another reason why I don't like Minecraft. It's first person. Like, I can't stand those first person engines. They make me sick to my stomach. I mean, I tried playing Lego Worlds. I tried playing EverQuest Landmarks when it was in beta. I tried playing all those games. It just didn't work for me. EverQuest Landmarks was cool, but never went anywhere because that whole thing fell apart. But I was looking at, I've looked at a lot of those games where you have an opportunity to build stuff. I remember having like player housing in Lord of the Rings Online. That didn't work for me either. I tried to have fun with it, but it just, no, I just rather level and quest and get stuff done. And get into and try and complete the puzzles that are some of the 5-man stuff and some of the 5-man raids. I mean, honestly, I was playing retail WoW recently. I think it is the balance of social and world building in WoW that's really good. It is third-person view. Okay, I never played it. So I played Diablo. I mean, I've played isometric games, and that Diablo is fine. But I don't have time for a lot of games. When I play a game, and I play video games, I have room for one in my life, and that's my lifestyle game. And what's fascinating about WoW, and I mean, those of you who are in the chat who've played WoW, and you know what I'm talking about. Like, running a dungeon well in WoW required everybody to know their role and do it well and execute well, or you failed. And I've been in groups that sucked and wiped, and I've been in groups that were good. And original Diablo was Diablo 2, the first Diablo 2 was the first like online game, like first attempt at an online thing. And there was nothing to do except go around and do the same shit over and over again. Just possibly you could do it as a group. I never really played Diablo 2 online. I only ever played the game offline. And then Diablo 3 is just too easy. And to be honest with you, it's just too easy. And it can't hold my attention. I think Torchlight 2 is a far better game, by the way. Yeah, only in closed games. But yeah, I mean, I played Ultima Online for about a month, and then we're like, oh my god, you gotta be kidding me. Macros, know them and know how to use them. Yes, absolutely. And WoW, they're absolutely necessary. Certainly for warriors, you have to have at least 2 or 3 good solid macros that will allow you to stance and overpower and all this stuff. I only barely remember that stuff, but I tanked in WoW. As someone who was a diehard Warcraft 3 fan, I see WoW as an abomination. As someone who was a huge fan of the Dune RTS, I always thought Warcraft 3 was an abomination, to be honest with you. The Dune RTS was fucking amazing. So good. That game was fantastic. Yeah, I mean, when you do this stuff, I don't know. Again, the only reason the RTS model has died is because no one's figured out a way to what do you call? No one's figured out how to monetize them. Are you giving me the autistic screeching? Work. They just re-released Warcraft 3 actually, with an upgraded graphics engine. So you're welcome, Cindy Yang. We're just off in the weeds now. I got nothing else to do for the rest of the night. I got to check my texts actually. Hold on for a second. Okay, good. Hold on for just a second, guys. All right, great. Yes, the Dune game was fantastic, wasn't it? What's funny, Cindy Yang, is that I was all for. I'm so very angry with Donald Trump for in effect being Donald Trump at this point. Let me just come to my terms with it. I do remember Master of Orion, and I played it, and I remember StarCraft 2, which was fucking amazing. One of the greatest games ever. If you've never, what did you miss? Everything. Now we're just talking about video games. But as far as Trump is concerned, Cindy Yang, I want him to be better than he is, but I never really had high expectations and high hopes for him. So I voted for him. I don't really have much buyer's remorse because I mean, what's the point? I could have had Hillary Clinton. Ugh. I could have virtue signaled and wrote in Murray Rothbard. So what? So yeah, no, it's great. I mean, I'm an inveterate game. If you guys saw, no, yeah, I was kicked in the head by a horse. Now I love Trump. Gotcha. If you guys saw my board game collection, you'd be a little scared. Let's just say that. I actually have to do a culling now. I really do. I have to do a culling. I have to sell 10 or 15 games. I'm hoping my friend Nick will buy a bunch of them, because then they won't leave the gaming group. I can still be able to play them, and just won't be in my collection anymore. Looking for a good game for my 8-year-old boy. At 8 years old, I'll tell you, Sophie was mine's not as big as that. So hold on for a second. Looking for a good game for an 8-year-old boy. My daughter's a little bit of a prodigy, so she was able to handle heavier games than an 8-year-old should have. But there's a lot of really good family weight entry level, like Euros and whatnot. I'm a big fan of oh god, what do we play at 8? There's a lot of games on the market. The problem is with now, I think back on those games and I'm like, Sophie and I were playing Small World at 8, so together, and she loved it. And I mean, Small World is a classic kind of Euro. So do I play anything old and classic? Do I play chess? Badly. I don't play chess on a regular basis. Do I play Go? Badly. I have Risk 2210. I don't like classic Risk. I think all the other Risks are far better. Risk 2210, Risk Godstorm, and others I think are excellent games because they put a limit on Risk. They crunch it into a nice tight. As far as I'm concerned, classic games, Diplomacy, Dune, all the Avalon Hill games from the 70s, Republic of Rome, Titan, all those. I own so many of those. Advanced Civilization, another great game. I don't do minis gaming anymore. The only minis gaming I did on it for any length of time in my life was both BattleTech, which I was completely obsessed with for a while, 15, 18 years ago, and X-Wing, which I played for a while. So, but for an 8-year-old boy, I would start with go to Board Game Geek, and there's a bunch of games. I mean, I'm thinking like BoardGameGeek.com is really good. It's just a database of all the games, and anything with a complexity rating on Board Game Geek of less than like 2.5 or so is probably handleable for an 8-year-old. I've got a couple of games that I think are really, really good at the. Actually, what game would work really well is Explorers of the North Sea. I'll type that in. Hold on for a second. It's a light Carcassonne style tile laying game, but it's really imaginative. In my collection, Explorers of the North Sea works really well because it's a pick up and deliver game. You're placing tiles and building islands, so you get to build this big, huge board and go send Vikings on ships and pick up sheep and bring them back and do a little bit of set collection and that kind of thing. And it's the kind of game where you don't have to play really competitively against your child. And it teaches a lot of stuff, but it's a light game. It's not particularly heavy. When you add the expansion, it becomes a much heavier game, and it becomes much more interesting to someone even like me. But the base game of Explorers of the North Sea, I think, is really, really good. And if he likes that, and as he gets to 9 or 10, then I would introduce him to the other game in that series, which is Raiders of the North Sea, which is an excellent worker placement game. A worker placement Euro. Excellent game. He's starting a STEM school this fall. He should be fine. Starting with go look at those two games. I have a number of others I like that are in that realm. I like all of the Valeria games by Daily Magic. That's Valeria Card Kingdoms, and I'm going to type out Valeria Daily Magic games. There's a whole series of them. There's Quest of Valeria, which is a great little card manipulation game. There's Villages of Valeria, which is a great San Juan style tableau builder, action selection tableau building game. also very good. Got a ton of expansions for it. It gets more and more complicated as you go. I think now the game is in a very good state, but the base game is still very, very good. And Valeria Card Kingdom, which for those of you who are in the know, is like Machikoro on steroids. There's a new game called Space Base, which I didn't like as much, but oh god, I can talk about this shit all night long. There's a newer game out there called Space Base, which is I didn't like very much. I thought it was a little too fiddly. I like Valeria Card Kingdoms better, and an 8-year-old might. I don't know. It all depends on his, what he thinks is better art. But all the stuff you can find on Amazon, and don't go. I mean, you can go to your. I mean, then you can get into like the gateway games like Catan, which I don't recommend, or Carcassonne again, which I don't recommend. Entry level worker placement games like Stone Age, yes. You should also try them on some deck building games as well. I think those are excellent. The best thing about Euro games is that it teaches kids not to be a marshmallow grabber. What do you mean by that? I don't know that phrase. So Euro games are great. I like them. I don't like them all, but as a matter of fact, I like very few. I'm pretty selective about what I like in my Euro games. See Stanford study of marshmallow grabbing. Okay, sorry. I don't know. I mean, if you ask me what my favorite games are at this point, I mean, I like my very, very in-your-face confrontational games. Of course, you like shooting games. I don't. I was going to say, I would stay away from most of the Tiny Epic series. I think they're a little too fiddly and a little too higher end. Oh yeah, okay. You can either have one marshmallow now or take 3 marshmallows in 2 days. Yeah. Well, there's Donna. This is like the board game. What's the word I'm looking for? We're living in the board game golden age. There are so many games coming out, I can't even keep up with them. And any recommendations I would make to you now would possibly be out of date. There's so many good games out there, so it's crazy. Yeah, the delayed gratification thing, that is an interesting thing about Euro games. Good Euro games, like the gold standard for me, and this would be something like Agricola, where you're trying desperately to figure out how to subsistence farm and think 6 turns ahead in order to get more. I'm terrible at Agricola, just terrible at it. I can score 35 points in Agricola. I don't know if that makes me terrible or not, but that's as good as I'm going to do. All good board games are gratification, delay, and efficiencies. Yep. Or bluffing the fucking crap out of your opponent and thinking about I think about games like Dune, and how Dune sets you up to. It sets you into that same mode of like, do I push now? Do I move the board state? Do I not move the board state? Fucking Dune is amazing. But most people don't know how to play it well, and because they don't know how to play it well, they don't know how to play it 3 and 4 players. Whereas that's all I ever played the game at. I don't think I can actually manage a 6-player game of Dune. We were playing Imperial the other night, which is a fucking amazing game. And some of the older ones are really, really good. But like right now, it's hard for me to say what my favorite games are. I have so many, but it amazes me how many people can't deal with games like Dune or Diplomacy. Imperial is just as bad, right? They can't handle the confrontation. They're just like it's terrible. To me, it's like falling off a log. My 2 favorite games of all time are honestly, I mean, the 2 games that I have been obsessed with more than any other games on the planet are Dune, the board game, which I nearly failed out of college playing with my wife and my former roommate who needs shotgun blasts to the kneecap for stealing a few $1,000s from me. And a little card game called Shadowfist, which we played way too much of in the late 90s, early aughts. And at one point, I was probably one of the 5 best Shadowfist players in the world. There were only 1,000 or 1,500 of us, so it's not a big thing, not a big hill to climb. But I can tell you that we played the game at such a high level that it kind of got spooky. But again, another game very much like Dune, but in a collectible card setting. where everybody can be involved in every attack and everything that's happening all at the same time. So everybody's always engaged, even when it's not your turn. It's not just a matter of, oh, well, it's not my turn, I get to be a victim. No. You're like actively doing shit. And at 3 to 5 players, this game was off the charts good, with good players. But if you had bad players, then it would, like every other game where you have 4 good players and 1 bad player, well, guess what? The bad player is going to unbalance the board and going to hand the win to somebody else. But at a competitive level, the game was fucking phenomenal. I talked about this before. And Dune is the same way. And Green Penguin says, I suck at confrontations. I guess I need to find a gaming group and play those in. The hard part is getting people in my gaming group. And we have like hardcore gamers, but I mean, they don't want to play, like the older guys, the guys that are my age that have been doing this thing for 30 years. They don't want to play games like that anymore. You know, they just don't. They don't want to play Dune. They don't want to play diplomacy anymore. They don't like, and the younger generation is like all hip to play this stuff. We got guys in the group that are like never played diplomacy, never played Dune, never played any of this stuff, right? Never played, they played Acquire, they've played, I introduced them to Advanced Civilization last year. We played for 8 hours. We were only halfway through the game, and we're like, we can stop here, but did everybody have a good time? They're all like, yes! They're not Care Bears. They've done it all. They're not interested in playing that anymore. You know what I mean? Played a lot of Spades. Spades is a great game. So is Pinochle. So I like all trick-taking games. The mother of all trick-taking games is the simplest one. And the simplest one is also the most subtle and the most dangerous, and that's euchre. If you've never played euchre, don't try and learn it from anybody. You have to play it from people who know how to play. But euchre is an amazing fucking game. It's only 5 cards. It's a trick-taking game with only 5 tricks, and it's so freaking hard to play well. But then once you master the game, then it's just kind of falling off a log, and you're like, then you're counter bluffing and doing all sorts of crazy shit to each other. But it's not that we get away from confrontation. They just don't want to play those games anymore. They'll play cutthroat freaking games all day long. They just, they'll play cutthroat and mean games all day long. They just won't play those games anymore. It's a little frustrating for me because I do want to get that to the table more than once or twice a year. I'd like to play Dune on a semi-regular basis. I don't know that it's going to happen or not. We'll see if it happens with the younger kids that I've my millennials, to see if they go with me on that. So yeah, well, you don't think of it as difficult. It's not, but when you start playing euchre, fucking insanely hard, right? Never played Intrigue. Still like Mahjong and backgammon because people can't cheat. Well, the thing is about most Euroboard games, most German Euros, you can't cheat there either. All the information's right there. There's really no cheating, And I do love both. And I played Mahjong for the first time a few months ago. My friend Bernie brought it to we have every second Saturday of every month we meet together for an entire day. We start at noon and we go until 1 a.m. And Bernie brought Mahjong, and that was fun. I had a blast playing Mahjong. It was great. So there you go. But right now, I think the game that I own that I want to play, like to the exclusion of everything else, would be Brass Birmingham. If you've not played Brass, I really, really I really like Brass Birmingham. So good. I'm not sure what version of Mahjong we played. I just played Bernie's, whatever Bernie had. It taught me how to play it. It's a crazy set of rules. It's like cribbage on steroids, right? So. But I like my Euro games. I like my Ameritrash games. I like everything in between. I like them all. But I do prefer games that have I don't mind randomness in the game. But depends. So I just like games, right? So I have a lot of games that I have to house rule to make them acceptable. That's also fun. All right, guys, it's an hour and a half. So any of you who are interested in playing World of Warcraft Classic with myself, Sophie, and the rest of us, drop me a DM, leave a comment in the stream down below, and I'll be happy to, we'll become BattleNet mates, and I don't know, maybe we'll name the guild Gold Goats and Guns. I haven't decided yet. I've got 4 or 5 names that I'm choosing between. So, all right, you guys take care. You have a great night. We will talk soon. Keep your stick on the